Hello and welcome again to another exciting episode of the Terry McGriff Show. Just happy to be here along with my illustrious co-host, Andre L. Sullivan. How you doing, Andre?
Man, I'm alive. The birds are chirping. The chickens are doing what they do. The barber blessed me. God has kept me, and I'm here. You looking at me, and me you looking at you.
I feel you, man. I feel you, man. I'm happy to be here myself, man. Just football season has finally arrived for everyone. We had a couple of college football games last week. We're gonna get into
Man,
that. Yeah.
before you even start, I'm sorry. I have to give a huge shout out to the Edward Waters College Athletic
Edward
Administration.
Waters University.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Edward Waters University Athletic Administration. That was a beautiful, bump the game. They won. Congratulations to them, and definitely a good shout out to FMU. They have a bright future in their football program, but just a beautiful show of having their first home game on their campus. Everything was done beautifully. They need to work on the will call line, but everything was done beautifully, and I just had to tip my hat to them before we get things started.
Of course, of course, of course. Congratulations to Edward Waters University. Beautiful stadium, beautiful campus. They're doing such great things of revitalizing that school as well as that program. Congratulations to their staff and their players and administration for their first home on campus win. And the coach's first win at the university. The head coach got his first win in his first game. So congratulations to Edward Waters University. Many big things to come. Before we get started and deeper into our show, I'd like to do the first thing a shout out. These are the things we give you on this show. When you have a media person that's a real life media personality with you, you get those great tidbits. But if you like our content, please hit that like button. Please also subscribe. And last but not least, please hit our subscribers up. Give them business. Team Sportswear Direct. Watch game film. Also, visit the Women's Tackle Football League, the DEMP Project, and last but not least, Laces Out. Man, we got an exciting show. That's just one of the things to come here. We're getting, like I said, we're into college football season. We had some college games last week. My godson plays at University of Illinois. Illinois beat Nebraska this weekend in an exciting win. Brett Bielema's first game as the head coach at Illinois, and they won their game. Had some great games this weekend in high school. They're kicking off all over the country. Shout out to Kim. You guys played your first game of the season. Congratulations to you, coach. I tell you what, it was going to be a wonderful, wonderful weekend. That's an exciting season. As we're going to get started, we're going to talk about these topics as we're getting ready for the season. The NFL start to kick off in 2 weeks. Cut day coming is cut day here. And the Jaguars made their cuts. Big cut today, obviously, with the New England Patriots. Shout out to somebody there. I want to make a shout out to one of our local alums, Mac Jones, from, first of all, Mandarin Athletic Association, which I'm a board member, a proud board member. Also, shout out to Bowles and the University of Alabama. He's an alumnus of all of those. Great job with them. We're going to talk about the Cam Newton thing, the situation, what's next for him. Also, we're going to go and talk about our divisional champs and some playoff stuff, our preseason predictions for who's going to win each division, as well as our playoff teams who are going to win those wild card spots. Well, let's get started into it, man. Once again, I have to say the Jaguars' way to finish strong. Obviously the Cowboys did not have all their horses on Sunday, but you did what you're supposed to do. You got the young quarterback, some continuity, some got him a little bit of rhythm, and obviously against backups. And I will say it was against backups, but you did what you're supposed to do against backups. She's getting the end zone. He was He only missed had one incompletion. What is 10 out of 11, something like that. Couple of touchdowns. That's what you want. Get him out the game. You shipped Minshew out of there, and I think which actually had a little bit to do with it. I don't think that they should have, but hey, you got something from Minshew, which is a good thing. And the Eagles finally got a decent backup because I don't think that they were happy with their backup quarterback situation. So speaking of that, well, let's get into this. The Jaguars made some cuts that kind of surprised me. I thought Divine Exigbo, after his performance in that last game, would have made the roster. That was a little bit of a shock. Defensively, with Williams being let go, the speedster that they spent a third-round pick on says a lot about what his thinking. I think my hearing is, and you can probably speak to this a lot more, he could just never grasp on where to be in any of the defenses. That was the word I heard, that he just could not grasp what's going on. So I don't know if that was, and I hate to say this, I don't know if that's an intelligence issue or lack of studying or what. But it was a lot of that. What I will say, a lot of the old regime's draft picks went bye-bye in this final cut. The fact that I also was surprised by the wide receiver cuts. I thought Laquan Treadwell was going to make the roster the way he did. He's a big body. But one of the things I said that they seen that they want speed and special teams play. Obviously, Urban Meyer's a special teams guru, and he wants to have great special teams. That was one of the reasons I also heard that Shaq Quarterman made it, because not only could he fill in that inside linebacker spot, but he plays as a monster on special teams. And he comes downhill. You see that he made one of those guys at Sunday's game have alligator arms. So, that was surprisingly the cuts on defense. Well, another cuts on defense is how many defensive backs that they traded a couple of guys out and cut a couple of guys that I didn't think they were cut. But all of that was special teams. If you're not going to be a starter, you better be an ace on special teams. That was said. And I'll let you take over from here on this.
Being a Jacksonville Jaguar media guy, I get those updates literally almost within minutes of them happening. Mm-hmm. The first thing I had a question about, and I text Mia O'Brien, who works here locally, Channel 12 News and Sports. And I'm gonna be quite frank, excuse my language. It went along something like, how the hell is Taven Bryan still on this roster? and I apologize because she was like, "Oh my God, Andre, stop it! I'm in a meeting," and I was like, I just had to ask because do they see what we see? I'm confused. Like maybe my eyes. Of course, I'm looking through the wrong eyes. I'm looking through mine, not my eyes of Urban Meyer or Trent Baalke. But it was just like, how is he still in a Jaguar uniform? I don't mean to attack his character, but for the lack of a better word, the guy's an idiot. And so it just confused me. But like you said earlier, they made some interesting cuts. They waived Colin Johnson, which I did not see coming. Granted that wide receiver room was full. Mm-hmm. They brought in extra chairs to fit some of those people, but I didn't see that coming for Colin Johnson, especially with the big body that he had and the way he had a beautiful camp. They cut Tevin Jones at wide receiver. Philip Dorsett, Devin Smith, and as you said, Laquan Treadwell, who I honestly thought did enough to earn a spot on the 50, if not the 53, at least the practice squad. But again, we're not making the positions. Now, the biggest surprising cut that they made for me was Austin Pleasant, an offensive lineman who I thought had a really, really good camp. And, with the way Jacksonville Jaguars line has played in the past years, I thought he did enough to at least make that 53. But, again, my eyes are behind me. Now, you alluded to it, Quincy Williams. That was the big name that everyone kept bringing up. Listen, when you're constantly on rotation as a clip for another player making a big play, and what I mean by that is the young man who plays running back for the Carolina Panthers. He's a rotational clip of getting jumped over on NFL Network, ESPN. That kind of gives you a headache. He has had problems in basically reading correctly. And what I mean by that, for our fans who are listening, is looking at that, possibly reading run or reading pass. He's like you said, he's basically in the wrong spot. most of the time that he's on the field. And when you're in the wrong spot, and then on top of that, you're not really conditioned enough to play special teams, and then on top of that, you're injured. The best thing in football, the best ability is availability, and
Mm-hmm.
he's not there. And so, yeah, he got cut. Was it a shocker a little bit? Yes, but at the end of the day, I'm not surprised. And you even said it yourself. They old regime and they cleaned house. People like Josh Jones got placed on reserve injured because you're injured and you technically can't cut people who were hurt in your house. Yeah, he'll be gone as soon as that leg gets better. I mean, and listen, linebacker Dylan Moses, same thing for him. Listen, guys, I mean, there are 32 teams. Only 53 suit up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Got to cut. People that I'm happy made the list. Haha, Dakota Allen. Listen, people, if he ever gets on the field, ooh-wee. It's a reason why cameras followed him in last chance years. It's a reason why he was the Big 12, the leading tackler his senior year. It's a reason why the LA Rams drafted him. The guy can play, and he's a special teamer, and he has great character. Listen, don't sleep on him. I promise you're missing out. And there's a couple of guys that made the list. QB Jake Luton didn't. TJ Bethard won out in that number 2 spot. I'm going to miss you, Gardner. I'm going to send you flowers as soon as I get paid. But at the end of the day, Jaguars got their 53, and we'll see how they do come this Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to speak to a couple of the things. The Taven Bryan thing. What I heard was they wanted to get more time to look at him, and so they wanted to. They liked this size. They loved his strength, and they wanted to give him because he was injured, coming off an injury, and he went on the COVID thing, which I'll speak to in a few minutes. And he did perform pretty well. They say he graded out well, and I did see him on some plays Sunday. And because he's so strong and physically gifted, they wanted to be able to use him because this defense, he's not. These guys are not expected to make plays on this D line. They are expected to be able to hold up against the run so the linebackers can flow. So I kind of get that with him. So he's given his last chance. Plus, remember, the Jaguars also have the first right of refusal in the draft, having that, finish with the first pick in the draft, obviously. So they're going to have a lot of guys that may not even be here tomorrow that's on this roster today because they're going to look at that waiver wire and see who they can pick up, which is the main reason why a lot of those guys got cut today that we were surprised to get cut. Besides, also with the new rules and they're having veterans able to be able to be put on the practice squad. I think a lot of the guys the Jaguars cut today, a lot of those guys, they think they'll be able to bring back on their practice squad. People that I think that they kept that we were surprised to keep were what I heard was guys they did not think that were going to clear waivers and not be that they won't be able to put them on their practice squad. So I think Jake Luton was one of the guys they think they hit enough that they'll be able to put him on the practice squad. And when you got a franchise quarterback in Beathard, I think they could find somebody next year's draft to develop if that's what they're going to look at to doing if he doesn't make it. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was one of the rumors I heard, not just here with the Jacksonville team, but across the NFL. A lot of people, decisions were made on whether guys were vaccinated, and I wanted you to speak on to that. The vaccination issue came up big on a lot of teams with cuts because people do not want to lose games, the forfeit if guys getting cuts because they cause other guys to get have a big ration of COVID issues. So that was a lot the issue, and that was even a rumor with Cam. I don't know if Cam was vaccinated or not, but that was one of the reasons with that too. And there was also a rumor, and you can speak to that. We'll get into Cam later, but that was the main reason I heard a lot of guys awful that was on the bubble got cut too. And I'll let you speak to that before we change subjects.
Listen, it's a touchy subject, and it absolutely sucks. But at the end of the day, a coach's job, a general manager's job is to protect their logo. And what I mean by that is they have to look out for the best interest of their team and their franchise. So, it's just like doing regular cuts. You say a name. If this guy can't check certain bubbles, they're gone. Mm-hmm. And, one of those bubbles just so happen to be in the times that we live in now is this person vaccinated. So not only, are you not a special teamer, you can't check that bubble. I can't put you in the starting rotation. You can't check that bubble. I don't know if I really want you on my practice squad. I can't set them up. But now you're not COVID. You're not even vaccinated. That's something that can help us stay clean and help continue us to play games. I'm definitely not keeping you. And now you just gave me a reason to get gone. And so, and we'll touch on the Cam stuff later, but at the end of the day, yeah, it sucks. But Commissioner Roger Goodell said earlier on, we're not rescheduling games this year. So every team had that COVID meeting, and they encouraged players to get vaccinated. So at the end of the day, we as coaches tell people all the time, you do what you need to do to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So that was great points. I love that. So we'll see how this goes as we go forward. Like I said, I don't think that the Jaguars are through having that they have first right of refusal on all these waivers. I'm already knowing they're probably working overtime right now with their scouting department and seeing who they can bring in. Phone calls are being made when some of these young guys are going to be picked up. And the thing about it is, these are not guys that they're picking up to put on the practice squad. They're needing guys to go on the roster. So it's going to be interesting. Right now, the Jaguars receiving core is only 5 receivers. So there might be two guys that let go, and then they pick up 3 guys because they might. My rumor with only 3 tight ends. They're in the room. They're probably going to go about 6 to 7 wide receivers, from what I'm hearing, unless they find a couple of tight ends that they want. I was interested to find out. Look, I haven't seen the Baltimore Ravens waiver wire yet to see if Josh Oliver actually made the team or not. If Jaguars might consider picking him back up, since they had a little bit of history with him. So it's going to be interesting, and I haven't got a chance because I've been so busy today to go through who all was cut outside of the main guys that you heard that was everybody's been talking about. But it's going to be interesting. And speaking of that, let's transition to that. So the big news of the day, obviously, everybody knows that Cam Newton was released today, and he didn't win the starting job. What I heard was it wasn't that Cam Newton wasn't performing well. The word I heard was, since he was not going to win the starting job, they didn't want to go with a backup who was not going to run the same type of offense as the starters. They wanted some cohesion. And so he was more of a runner than a passer. Since he did not fit the mold and Mac Jones just wowed him with what he could do, they were better off going a different direction entirely and giving him release. Not that they didn't like him, not that they didn't want to keep him, they just didn't want to run 2 separate offenses. And plus, they know there's a opportunity for Cam Newton to be picked up here very, very soon. I.e., team out in D.C. area might want him, to come into their roster, since he has a history. And there's a couple other teams that he fit well with, and they that they're looking for a quarterback help. So that was the main thing. They let him go early now that he didn't win the job. He came out also and tweeted what I heard, that don't feel sorry for him. So I guess he probably still has some stuff going on. What it says to me was how well Mac Jones came in and assimilated that offense, and how well he performed, not only in the preseason, but in practice, because you know how Belichick is about how his practices go. So kudos to Mac Jones as an MAA, like I said, board member. I'm totally happy for the young man. I know his mom and his family a little bit, not real close friends with them, but I do know who they are, and they know. So I sent them actually congratulations this morning, and they said thank you. Good for him, good for a kid, another local kid in the Jacksonville community. So I'm happy for him. But I also believe Cam Newton's going to land on his feet. When you got a guy who's got a Super Bowl resume and a former MVP on his resume, if Josh Rosen can keep landing jobs, I'm pretty sure Cam Newton will find somewhere to play this season.
Listen, people, listen. If Bill Belichick could build a quarterback, it looks like Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. I don't mean that in the sense of race or
it's the way they play. It's the way they play the football game, the way he likes it to be done.
Yeah, listen, people. Cam Newton was never a Bill Belichick guy. Cam Newton was an athlete, and Bill Belichick will work with any athlete if they're willing to work. And so, on top of the fact that the Boston radio announced that Cam wasn't vaccinated,
Oh,
we just talked about it
and he had
earlier.
several COVID issues.
You know what I mean? We just talked about it earlier. How if you can't check certain boxes, Cam Newton ain't going on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
He could, but he won't. You know what I mean? So I mean, what? It sucks. It sucks. I was rooting for Cam. Don't get me wrong, but a coach is going to always do what's best in his mind. Listen, the moment Mac Jones got drafted to the New England Patriots, it was a countdown.
Yeah, the clock was ticking anyway. Yep.
Until he was the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. That's not to say Cam didn't give it his all. That's not to say Cam at any moment during this preseason let up. Cam played the way Cam played. And that's why he put out the statement, "Don't feel sorry for me." Cam's a baller. He'll be picked up soon. If he doesn't, he has nothing. He owes no one anything. Cam is one of those players that, and I'm not speaking to the end of his career, by the way, but Cam is just one of those players who changed the game, and he changes games. So when you see someone like Cam, and he's currently not on an NFL roster, it won't be long. It won't be long. Granted, he's not even vaccinated yet. Still won't be long because he's one of those people who puts on pads and helmets and you say, ooh.
I can tell you some teams right now that he could come in if you give him enough time. He'd be starting in a matter of about a month to 6 weeks. There's a team we play in the first game of the season, Houston. They have a quarterback situation. The one that they got is their real franchise is not going to be there long. Cam's better than anything else on that roster. There's a team down where he came from right now. Now that he's rehabilitated in Carolina, he's better than what's on that roster. Let's see. Let's go team number 3, where his old head coach is. He's better than anything on that roster. A team in our nation's capital. He's better than anything on that roster. Let's go. There's a team out in Denver. He's better than everything on that roster.
Now listen. I want you to get ahead of yourself. Now,
I'm not saying that these good, but I'm saying if there was that's why I'm saying don't worry about him. This was just to make a point. There's several places that he could turn up within a matter of weeks. And he's not missing any meals. I don't think he's going to bounce any checks anytime soon or, have to file bankruptcy. He's okay. This was not a knock on Cam Newton as it was an attaboy to Mac Jones and how he set their change of plans in motion way faster than he caught. Cam was brought in and was made the starter because they thought he was going to be there and be ready. He was always there to be the stopgap until Mac Jones was ready. Mac Jones just pushed the accelerate button on how long we need to keep Cam Newton. It's pure and simple. No knock on Cam. It's just an attaboy for Mac. Cam is, and that's why I rate these teams. Because if you saw his play in the preseason, if you heard about how he performed in that offense, learning that he had done an exemplary job. But you're not going to pay Cam Newton that money when you got your franchise quarterback there, when you can go ahead and put the accelerator button. It just comes down to that. And matter of fact, they loved Cam Newton. Bill Belichick spoke rays about him. The coaching staff there, they love him. And I think he's going to get a lot of endorsements if people come calling for the Patriots about Cam Newton.
No, I completely agree.
Okay. Oh, good. So let's move on. Congratulations, Cam. Congratulations, boy, oversold Mac Jones. Good luck on a great future. Hope you hopefully get a couple of Super Bowl appearances in your time there. Not long as it's not going against Trevor Lawrence, though. Anyway, let's talk about what we see coming up this year. This is. I think we'll have another week, but I wanted to get it out of the way. Let's talk about some of the teams in this year who we think going to win our divisions this year. Let's put our prediction hats on, and first we'll talk about the division winners. Let's talk about who we think will each division and why. Let's go with the AFC first. So let's start with the AFC East. Myself, I think the Buffalo Bills are still the team to beat with that great defense that they have and a young upstart quarterback playing good. Until Mac Jones really comes of age, I don't see anybody else winning that division right now. So I'll take the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East.
No, I can't. I can't argue with that. Josh Allen is the guy right now in that division. And until, Tua shows us differently, until, the Jets' new toy shows us differently, and like you said, Matt Jones comes of age. I like that quote, by the way. I just think Josh Allen and that fully stocked, or I should say stacked, defense is just prepared to run rampant on this division. And the AFC East has to go through them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's jump over to the West. Come on. They played in the last 2 Super Bowls. They're not getting any weaker. They retooled their offensive line. I mean, their defense is actually a little bit better from what I hear right now with some free agent pickups and stuff like that. Until somebody shows they got a great quarterback to match Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs is owning that division for the next few years to come.
Listen, the NFL players just finished their top 100, and the NFL players voted Patrick Mahomes as the number 1 player in the NFL league in the NFL. So,
there you go. Enough said. All right, let's do the AFC North. This one's a little bit different from me. I always usually say you can't knock off the champ until they're that, and I'll continue with that because everybody's, to me, sleeping on Pittsburgh. I think that, they're going to be better. That man, like you said before in a couple of shows we had, Tomlin has never had a losing season. I think Pittsburgh has more weapons offensively, and I think they're going to make a more commitment to run the ball. And with their defense good enough, I think that they're going to win this division. This obviously is going to be one of the tighter divisions out there because obviously you got Cleveland, you can pick them, you can pick Baltimore. But I just think there's something about the Steelers because I feel like they got something to prove this year again, especially at the way they ended the season last year. I'm picking Pittsburgh.
Listen, I can't knock you everything you said. Pittsburgh Steelers haven't had a losing season since 2005. But here's the thing. We keep talking about how the Ravens don't do well in the playoffs. They suffer. It's almost like watching Rome fall in a day. and the reason why is because we watch Rome get built over the season. Listen, I feel like the Ravens come out of this division as their champ. The Pittsburgh Steelers are still going to have a winning season. The Ravens are going to suck in the playoffs because they don't know how to throw the ball when it's actually on the line. But during the season, no one can stop them because no one cares at that point. And I feel like they have nothing to lose at that point. But then listen, every team that they're going to play inside the division is going to bring it this year. The Bengals, they're ready to ball. The Browns have one of the best defenses in this division. If we overlook them, you're asleep. And the Steelers are still the Steelers, but the Ravens right now in their offense, they still have Lamar Jackson, and he is a younger version of Cam Newton, just not as big. So I personally feel like the Ravens are going to come out of this division as the champs, but of course they're going to drop it in the playoffs. So I mean, at the end of the day, that's them.
I agree with you that. I know we're both sleeping on Cleveland by not picking them, but I'm going to put it this way: you got to show me for more than one season. I'm not going to fall for my Jaguar one flash and pan thing. They're going to be all that. No, show me again next year, maybe 2023 season, 2022 season. I'll pick you, but I got to see it. I got to see it for 2 years in a row. And like I told everybody, I'm sorry, I just don't trust their quarterback like that. If you put anybody else, any other quarterback with that talent on offense around there, they'd probably be MVP. I just don't think he can let him stick with his Heisman. I just don't see him doing it. We'll see. Hopefully everything will work out for them. But Pittsburgh's my pick. All right. Last but not least in the AFC, let's go with this AFC South. God, I hate doing this with a passion because I do not like this team. Only person I like on there is our local guy. But until otherwise noted, until somebody else knocks him off the throne, I'm going to have to pick the Titans. I don't see anybody else. God, would I love to see the Jaguars do something this year. I just don't see it. I think they'll probably end up third. Maybe second, because it looked like the Colts are going to have some injury and some situational issues that they got to deal with starting out, and they got a really rough schedule. They might get beat up and allow the Jaguars with their soft start schedule might to come in and slip that second spot. That would be a great. I mean, talking about a season where people around here dancing in the street. If the Jaguars win 8 or 9 games, 9 games will probably, with that expanded team in the 17 games and the expanded extra team in the playoffs, will probably get them in the playoffs with 9 wins. So I'm just praying for that. That will be my Christmas present. but other than that, as far as we're picking divisional champs right now, it's the Tennessee Titans.
Listen, here's the thing. The Texans have an issue at quarterback. We don't know who Deshaun Watson is going to play, and then on top of that, their defense is boo-boo. The Colts have an issue at quarterback. We don't know who's going to be their quarterback. Their defense is okay, but they can't stay on the field all day. Jacksonville Jaguars just got a brand new toy from Clemson who's going to be okay, but at the end of the day, they got a brand new head coach. The defense has so many holes, they can make they can have a funeral.
So Swiss cheese.
At the end of the day, the Titans held steady, and not only did they hold steady, they went and got a veteran wide receiver who can take the pressure off of their already top receiver that they got on the other side. So, listen, the Titans right now have this division by a chokehold, and until somebody can tackle Derrick Henry up high, it's dead.
Yep, you're right. Well, let's switch over to the NFC with our divisional picks. Let's start once again with the NFC East. Good Lord. Dude, let's see. If this ain't the worst division in NFL, I don't know what is. And by default, because I think the one team that does have a quarterback that I think is actually decent, I'm going to have to pick the Dallas Cowboys, even though I want to pick the Washington football team. I just don't know if Fitz Magic will have enough magic the whole year long, unless Cam gets there. Let's Cam makes it there. I'm picking the Cowboys. The Eagles, maybe they'll lightning in the bottle. The Giants, I don't know anything about them. They got names, but I don't see any consistency from the quarterback spot. And maybe he'll be the surprise player this year. But as of right now, I'm picking the Cowboys. As much as I don't really want to do that, it's kind of like by default, So that's who I'll go with.
Listen, right now we're watching the Cowboys on HBO Hard Knocks, and we're just looking at them fall apart. The Giants just got Saquon Barkley back, but at the end of the day, he can't carry the load. That's what got him injured in the first place. Washington got Fitz Magic, but at the end of the day, tell me a time where Fitz Magic showed his magic show in the playoffs. I can't remember. So, listen, I get it. The Cowboys right now have Dak Prescott, and that's the leaning towards it, but is Dak Prescott going to play week 1 or not? Listen, the Eagles not only got a brand new mustache, but at the end of the day, they got a Jalen Hurts. And a Jalen Hurts in this division can run circles around almost anybody. So I have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whoa, okay. All righty then. Okay. Well, let's move over to the West and the NFC West. Probably the second best division, if not the third. I think they're the second, if not the top division. Obviously, I'll say the AFC North is the best division in football. But the NFC West, if not number 1, they're number 2 or 1A. And that's what's so surprisingly hard about this. You got the Rams, which, you can't shake a stick at. Seahawks seem like they have figured out a way to win this division year in, year out. The Cardinals, you just don't know, but you know that they're pretty good. There's a reason to pick them with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones on the help in that division. Those 2 good young studs inside at linebacker, Budda Baker on that back end. You could pick them. I just don't know if the consistency will be enough, because they do got shiny toys on offense too. But with the quarterback play, sometimes it's going to be iffy. So, and their offensive line just don't thrill me none without that running game. So, and you got those other stud teams in there. But who I'm going to pick is a little bit off the beaten path. I think they got something to prove after falling that far and having all those injuries. I think the San Francisco 49ers have something to prove. They got most of their guys back, and if they can stay healthy with that great running game, and they're going to probably throw a lot of wrinkles with Trey Lance at the quarterback spot. I've seen them do the alternate quarterback thing, and I know that's not going to be what they do, but I'm sure they're going to have packages for him. And like I said, that defense in that running game of that team. I just think they're going to come back with a vengeance, and I think they'll win that division this year. It's going to be tough. I think that's going to be the tightest, closely fought division in football, but I think somehow the 49ers are going to win that division.
You know, when Bruce Arians was in Arizona, he tried this old person thing, and it didn't work out there. And I don't see it doubling down again. And just listen, J.J. Watt is going to always be a great. But J.J. Watt can't play 16 games. Listen, he went and got A.J. Green. A.J. Green ain't A.J. Green no more. And, yeah, Kyler Murray is good, and DeAndre Hopkins is a touchdown waiting to happen, but there's only so many times that you can go to that well. And so I can't see them doing it like that. Listen, the Seahawks find ways to win despite the fact they don't help Russell Wilson. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm really can really write a whole dissertation on how the Seahawks plan to lose and don't. But it's the fact that Russell.
I love that.
It's the fact that Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. And every year in, year out, he finds a way to get it done. The 49ers are great. They have one of the most underrated defenses in the league. And like you said, this offense is moving. Listen, I personally think Kittle is the best tight end in the league, even over Travis Kelce.
I agree with you. Kittles and bits, that's what I call him.
That's just personal opinion. But there is an old saying, despite whoever they have at QB, there is an old saying that defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. Listen, the Rams have two young men who on any team makes a difference. Aaron Donald and Sir King, Jalen Ramsey. Listen,
don't forget them safeties they got back there too, pretty damn good.
Hey, listen, and here's the thing: they won't have a chance to get to them because of the fact of who's up front. And who and they let them safeties be good because somebody back there shuts down a side of the field.
You know, they got that's right. They got two players in the top 10 of the players 100 list. Two of them. Oof,
you know what I mean?
I forgot about that.
So listen, I mean, Stafford is manageable, but at the end of the day, this defense is lights out. And if they can keep their stay on the field at least 50 to 60% of the time during a game, they can win. And so I can see the LA Rams getting out of this division with the crown.
Yeah, I was going to pick them. I just don't. God, it's just something about Matthew Stafford. I just don't trust. You know what I mean? It seems like he got stats for days, but he's never led anybody to win. And maybe he'll be he'll be the stopgap guy to get them the offensive points to let that defense finally take over. But we'll see. Let's go to the NFC North, where we have an interesting situation. Obviously, we're just going to scratch Detroit, but not even in part of the conversation, okay, until they show me something. Then Chicago's very interesting because the dynamic of having the two, obviously the redhead and the young stud that everybody's waiting to see what he can do. And like I said, this preseason and regular season is totally different thing. And you're not just going to just take off on everybody and run down the field and get first downs like that. It's doing their scheming against you, my friend. So I just got the Bears. I don't know yet. I just don't see that they have enough offensively to overtake my pick, Green Bay. Obviously, I'm picking Green Bay. But I didn't even remember who's the other team in the division.
The Vikings.
The Vikings. That's how bad. And obviously, outside of their great running back, I can't tell you anybody on their team. Obviously, okay, Harrison Smith. But, they have a couple of guys on defense. But like I said, outside of that, who do you think and trust? Yes, they have the rookie of the year, obviously, at wide receiver. But they just seem to disappear. And that's why I don't remember them. Every year come the end of October, the Vikings disappear. So, no, that's why I did it. I did it for a point. Obviously, Green Bay is the team in this division that I'm picking because they have His Majesty Aaron Rodgers, another MVP. Obviously, I think he was the number one pick. I don't think it was Mahomes. I think it was Aaron Rodgers was picked number one.
So, hear me out about this whole division here. Who does Aaron Rodgers play for? All right, we're done.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I said, who did Aaron Rodgers play for?
Green Bay Packers.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. I didn't get it. Okay, but we just want everybody to know who we were picking on that one. And probably they might, if it wasn't for there was a team that was another got Bay on the name, they would probably be back in the Super Bowl again, in the Super Bowl. So speaking of that, let's go to another interesting division, the NFC South. Obviously, you know who I'm picking. I'm picking the defending Super Bowl champions. And there's some pretty good teams that they're going to run through. I think the Saints are going to be interesting because I think Jameis Winston will give you some dynamics that they didn't have in Drew Brees. And I think the coaching staff obviously will keep him where he doesn't become a turnover machine. And I think with him and Kamara, and I think they'll find a couple of receivers out there. They'll be a playoff team. But nobody's overtaken Tampa Bay in this division. Obviously, Carolina, I love their dynamic of their great running back, Christian McCaffrey. DJ Moore is going to up and coming receiver. And obviously they got some weapons over there. I just don't believe that you take somebody else's reject and think you're going to win a division with it. So obviously, if the Jets didn't believe in him, what makes you think you're going to do a better job? And so. I just don't see it. You tell me. I don't even want to say the name Atlanta Falcons right now because that if you can think Josh Rosen's going to make your roster, if you're picking up Josh Rosen, and obviously name more than two people on that defense outside of Grady Jackson. Excuse me. I even got his name wrong. Forgive me, Grady Jarrett. But once again. That tells you everything you need to know about the Atlanta Falcons, So
listen, here's the thing. Only one team after winning the Super Bowl has returned all 22 starters.
I think that wasn't done since that was the 70s, wasn't it?
In the modern Super Bowl era. Only one team's done that, and that's this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Listen. 12 is still playing.
Yeah.
People took pay cuts to play with 12.
Uh-huh.
As long as 12 is on the field, I would lose my credentials to bet against him.
Yeah. You're right. Ain't nothing else to say. Well, let's move on real quick. Let's go start right back there again with that. How many teams you think in that NFC South will probably be your wild card? I will predict just one. If that would be the New Orleans Saints.
Listen, I'm not really big on the playoff bracket yet because it jinxes my mojo and that little thing. This little thing part of me, but if Jameis Winston is your quarterback and he throws 5 touchdowns. Jameis Winston might throw 4 or 5 picks too. So we're
hoping that Sean Payton's going to stop that. That's why I'm giving him the benefit of that. I'm giving it because of Sean Payton.
Yeah, well, hey, I hope Sean Payton suits up right behind him who's standing right behind him like it's Pop Warner too.
Okay, but so that means no other teams coming out of this division then for the playoff.
I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think the Saints will be okay. But if any other team comes out, it'll be them.
Okay, let's go to the NFC North. I will give the benefit of the doubt that I think the Bears will be good enough to be a playoff team. Maybe the Vikings, but I'm definitely going to pick the Bears because I'm going real heavy in our next division.
Somebody plays football in the NFC North besides Green Bay?
Yeah, no, you're right. So, okay, let's go to NFC West. I'm predicting not only will the Rams make the playoffs, if they don't upset my prediction of winning division and win, but they'll be a playoff content. They'll be in the playoffs. I also believe Seattle will be in the playoffs, and wouldn't be surprised if all 4 teams somehow made it with some kind of crazy scenario. That means the Cardinals been. But since I can't do that, that's why I picked the Saints. But I believe the Rams and the Seahawks will make the playoffs in that division.
I can't argue with that. That's a tough division. They always play great football. Yeah, that they could probably take all the other 2 seats if they want 3 seats.
Yeah. And if it was a crazy way of scheduling, I wouldn't pick any team in the NFC East. But if there was a crazy schedule outside, if you were writing the Eagles one, that means the Cowboys somehow be made in there for some kind of crazy reason. Other than that, nah. Let's go to the AFC West. I don't see maybe the Raiders, but I don't really see anybody with that tough to conference right now coming out of that, because obviously I'm going to pick another division that's going to be heavy with playoff teams. So I don't see anything outside of the NFC West coming out of there. The NFC East.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Excuse me, AFC East, and I meant the AFC West. Excuse me, because that was the Patrick Mahomes. I don't see any teams out of there. Denver, none of them. AFC East, maybe with a great, fantastic season, we could see New England coming out of there. Well, I'll take that back. Miami might surprise me. I'll take that back. So I can say Miami or maybe New England, but I'll go with Miami.
I agree, completely agree. Brian Flores has got that team going,
and they won 10 games
division.
last year. They won 10 games last year.
Yeah, they probably won't win the division, but I can see them being in that hunt late in the season.
Yeah. So let's go with the AFC North. I could see everybody in that division with the exception of the Bengals making the playoffs. And I think that happened last year anyway. So we might have a repeat. We have a repeat.
Again, don't sleep on any of these teams. Browns, Ravens. Ravens going to get there. Steelers are the Steelers. You know what I mean? And don't forget the Bengals either. But at the end of the day, they all beat up on each other in that division. So anybody can make it out of there.
Yeah. I don't see the Colts making it because I just think they're slow. They're in the AFC South. I think they're going to start off with that slow, and they got a lot of guys on COVID and injuries and stuff like that. T.Y. Hilton's not there. They got an upside crazy situation at the quarterback position. One of the main things, Quentin Nelson having some issues, so that's really going to hurt them with their running game and their offense. So, Darius Leonard is having some issues, so I don't see them making it with all the other stuff that they got to start with. And outside of a miracle, I don't see my Jags making it. No. So that's what. So I think we went through everybody this year. So in our predictions here, man, I really appreciate you. Once again, I'd like to thank my co-host here, illustrious co-host Andre L. Sullivan, great producer Granville Mooley Fowler with All Sports High. Once again, if you like our content, please hit that like button. Once again, also hit that subscribe button. And once again, please, call on our patrons, call on our sponsors, Team Sportswear Direct, watch game film. Also, just reach out and see what we got going on with the Women's Tackle Football League, as well as Laces Out, and last but not least, the DEMP Project. And until next week, at this great same beautiful channel right here, come on again. We will see you once again right here on the Terry McGriff Show. Y'all be blessed.